joining our program via Global Project Control. This is the free webinar about Primavera P6 fundamental information and how you can use this software. As you know, I send you 3 PDF files, each one related to each session of our program. At each session, we will discuss about each file, and after that, I will show you how the software is used. Let's begin. The part one is some general information about industrial engineering work and criteria in industry. So I think all of you familiar with it. This is only general information. I prefer to use our time in a software. So I skip the part one and go for part two. Part two related to general software information. The first menu is the file menu. As you see, file menu includes some subcategory. File, open and close. It will work in file menu for project action. You can use this sign in order to use the shortcut when you use this software. I mentioned it, P6 shortcut. With page setup, print preview, and print, you can use this area to prepare some output setup and hard copy or soft copy. Import and export and send project module work when you want to share your project or import your project or receive a project from your friends. Also, project portfolio works when you want to go to your portfolio, and refresh data work when you want to refresh your data. This is very important key because most of P6 users work with P6 in a company. More than one user work with one project. So you need to refresh data. I mean that when you work at network, you need to refresh your data. Let's show you how the file menu works in a software. This is file menu. When you want to create a new project, you can use file and new. When you want to create a new project, you should go to file and use new. Instead of this, you can use Control N, as you see. When you choose this, you face it with this dialog box. At the first, you should select your EPS. Which EPS would you like to create your project on it? I select my live tutorial EPS and push the next button. You should enter your project ID. Your project ID must be unique in a software. So if you use the repetitive information in this dialog box, you face it with error. and software replace your number, your project ID number. After that, you should write your project name. My project name is sample new project. I push the next button, and this is the project start date. The project start date is today. So I push the next button, and the responsible manager, it's not necessary to select it. It would be enterprise. We can set it up later. Go to next. Rate type, it would be a standard. Price unit, standard is good. And congratulations, you create your project. This is the sample new project. If I close all, my current project, this is the sample new project, which I created right now. When you open your project, you can open your project over here, or you can open your project via this file menu. If you select from file menu, you face it with this dialog box. You select your project, and then you open your project. After that, you should go to your activities sheet, WBS, or resource assignment, according to your usage. I select activities sheet. It is the blank project because I create it right now. I add some activity and if I want to close all open project, I use close all. You face it with this dialog box and you close all of your project. Our program let me to open this project I created for webinar. And how page setup work? When you want to create output from your project, most of the time you go to the page setup. You can select your orientation of your output over here, adjust it to the normal size, fit it by one page tall, or fit time scale to the one page wide. It is very useful. Most of the time you use it because when your project have a long duration and you want to software adjust it with your paper, you should use it. And paper size, I use A3. Margins, you can select your margins over here. And header and footer, we have some selection box in order to arrange our header and footer. If you select picture, you can upload a picture like me. Let me to change this picture. If you want to write something over here, you should select text logo. Then you can modify it and write what you want. Sample project. If you want to use a link, picture, or use a table, you can add it, but I'm not recommend it because it's not advanced editor. But maybe you want to use your project name. If you want to P6 change your project name automatically, you can use this when you want to use option menu. You can set up your output file over here. If you use activity table and Gantt chart and then use to apply, you can find this output. This is combination of Gantt chart and your columns. Adam, can you right now see my screen? So if you want to share your Gantt chart and activity table, you can use both of check mark in a print. Option, print, activity table, and Gantt chart. Then push the OK button. You can find this Gantt chart. And this is the print preview. This is very simple. And if you go for print, you can print out your project. When you want to export your project and share with your colleagues, you can use this dialog box. If you want to share with XCR format, use the first and be careful about your receiver of your file, because if he or she have a P6 in older version than you, it cannot use your file. So please be careful about your version. Select your true version. If you want to export your file into P6 contractor, use this. If you want to use XML output file, XML have a ability to share your file too. If you want to use XLX, it's for advanced session. It's not for right now. You can use XLX, and if you want to share your project with Microsoft Project, you can use this. But let me to provide the XCR output file. I use a project, whole project, not resource or rules only. Use the next, and my project ID and project name appears here. I use the path for my file location and use save. And when you want to use import, you can use import when you receive an XCR file from others or other type of file. This is very common when you receive Microsoft project file and want to use it. If you select dissolve your activity relationship, remove by software automatically. If I use it, you can now my activity D connected to my activity F. But if I use to dissolve it, this relationship remove from my activity is removed too, but the relationship, my activity F, is connected to the activity D relationship. That is how dissolve work. If you want to use activity renumbering activity ID, you can use it over here, or you can select your activities, use to renumbering activity IDs. You can select increment value over here or auto numbering field. I add some character over here. This is my suffix and this is my increment value. You can find these my activity IDs over here changed. And if you want to assign some resource rule, activity code, predecessor or successor, you can use assign menu over here. Or assign menu is designed by P6 over here. If I use this assign resource, this is work for assign resource. I assign my resource. You can assign your resource or you can remove from here. Also, you can use it for activity codes. If I remove these activity codes, and if I want to assign some activity codes, first I select my activity and then I double click on my activity codes or use this assign. If this box going to be red, it means my assign be successful. And if I remove it, you face it with this dialog box, push it OK, and the upper one become green. Okay, this is how activity code assign works. You can use the activity code in globally EPS or your project. This is depend on your company or project. And if you want to link your activity. First, let me to remove this relationship. And if I use a schedule, also remove it. If I use a schedule, these two activities have no relationship. I select both of them and then use link activities. Wait for a moment. These activities have a finish to a start relationship by software. If I use a schedule again, you can find these activities are related to each other by finish to a start relationship. And how fill down work? Some of times you want to change some things in your project globally. For instance, I want to reduce my original duration from activity name D to activity name G to 10 days. I use fill down. The shortcut is Control E. If I use fill down, all of them change. If I use a schedule, all settings change. Select all, it's obvious. You can use it for select all of your activities. Find for big project works. For instance, if I want to use A in a down or find in a up, I use up. Show me activity name. Or if you want to, for instance, find which activities 200 or other things. But be careful. You should first select your things you want to look up, then use find. For instance, I use activity name, then write my activity name I want to looking for it, then I push find text. That is how find works. And find next in F3 and how the replace works. Select activities and go for replacement. I want to replace A to X. I find or I replace. I replace it. Match the case or whole word criteria. These are very simple and useful tools. And a spell check, it's not work for all right now. And what is the user preferences? You can use your unit format or duration format over here. I recommend you to use decimal in a 2 in order to face it with problem in the future in your project. Because if you change your decimal to 0, you cannot find many of your problem. For instance, in your duration. If you change it, you can find the example. Also, if you want to show the label to you, you can use this check mark. Or in hour, you can use this check mark. If you want to use minutes, also, you can use it. It's up to you if you want to use this. Also, you can change your unit time format to the percentage or unit per duration over here. I recommend you to unit per duration because with percentage format, we cannot find what is the exact columns. Because many of columns can rename, and if someone rename your columns before, maybe you face it with some error. And what is the date? Date is very important for a scheduler. You can use this setup in order to orderize your date, month, or year. You can use 4-digit year, month name, or leading to 0 over here, separator, and use the time, or do not show the time. The time is very important when you use to timesheet, and you should schedule your data, for instance, at the evening time. You should use it. And the result of your setting presented by software over here. If I use this, it's change to this or to this. Month name, I can remove it. Okay, and what is the currency? You can select your currency of project over here. And if you want to software assistant you and you face it with wizard in resource or activity, you can check this wizard. Let me to show you. If I add the activity, P6 only add the activity for me. But if I go to this dialog box and use new activity wizard, you face it with this wizard in order to set up your activities. Which WBS you want to assign it. For instance, I want to assign it to the upper level of WBS. And what is the activity type? It's finish milestone, level of effort, resource dependent, or something else. If you like to assign a resource to this activity or not, or what is the duration type, and what is the activity units and duration, and want to finish it, that's it. The new activities you can find over here. And application. This is related to a startup windows and group and sorting, show ID or something else. You can set it up for yourself. If you want to, when open your software, you face it with activities or project or reports, it's up to you. You select it and check it. Use this check mark. Show the welcome dialog at the startup. I don't use it. And if you want to change your password, you should enter your current password and change it over here. And what is the resource analysis? If you want to use this dialog box, it depends on your project situation or your company, because this setting related to you work on a portfolio on your standalone project. For a standalone project, this setting works. And calculation. Calculation for resource assignment. This is depend on your setting and project setting, or you're assigning a staff. If you have a rule or routine, you can use this dialog box. Also use the new resource unit per time, or if you want to assign it but by your own, you can use it. Also for activity assignments, and this is for dissolving activity. If you want to retaining the lag of activities over here, if you want to assign it to the remaining activity, you can use it, but I don't want to assign it. And what is the startup filter? You can set up your customization over here. That is all about user preferences. Let me to continue with next part. Our next part is we discuss about all of these. Let me to skip it. View menu bar. You can use your layout over here, or customize your view or layout over here with these three. You can customize bar, column, time scale on your layout by these tools. You can use filter or sort and group by here. You can use progress spotlight, progress line, attachment, line number, and change your font and type over here. Your hint, zoom, expand and collapse, and toolbars with a short description over here. Let me to show you what happened with this in a software. Layout. You can use your layout over here or over here. If you want to open new layout, the first question software asks you each time is, want to save the change? I use no and face it with this layout. For instance, if I use WBS classic layout or classic EPS WBS layout, I can apply it. Immediately software change my layout. Or if you want to share your layout, you can export it like how you export your project. Select the destination and save it. If you want to import it, use the destination. The export file extension is PLF. You can use it in order to share your layout with your colleagues or your friend. You can apply or delete or open it. This is how layout works. And bars. You can use the bars over here or over here. If I want to show you the remaining duration, you cannot find the remaining duration bar over here. If I want to present you the remaining work, use this check mark and click apply. You can find it. But what is this? This is the critical remaining. You can use it. If your bar, if you want to show the calendar non-working time, you can make your activities like here. Please look at here. If I use this check mark, it's activity completed, but if I use this check mark, it activity become naked. Okay. And if you want to show your activity when you collapse, you use this check mark, or let me to show you. I collapse my activity to level 2. You can not find any activity, but if I want to present my critical activity even when they collapse, I use this check mark and I'm going to collapse it to level 2. Now you can find it. For normal setting, you can find some of bars are available and some of bars are not available. It's up to you. For instance, if I want to show you primary baseline, you cannot find it over here. If I use to this check mark, you can watch my primary baseline too. Also, you can create new bar by add or delete some of this bar. You can use option in order to more setting, how show relationship, show legend, how to collapse to, use our data date, a style of this data date, size, color, use the site light or progress line. And your progress line, draw to the finish date or start date. Let me to show you what is the progress line. Progress line is this line. It's the progress line. Okay. And what is the time scale? You can use 3 line of time scale or 2 line of time scale. Time scale start with your project start or your current You cannot watch all of my project because my time scale is too small. I'm going to change it. You can use type for calendar, fiscal, or week of year. It's up to you according to your output, or select menu. If you use fiscal, and you can use year or month, apply it. Can use it. This is the fiscal preview. But if you want to ordinary date from project start by weeks, months, or you can use it or here. Also, you can use the time scale by week. But what is the progress spotlight? If you want to spotlight on what is your front work in upcoming, you can turn on the spotlight and select your spotlight. For instance, this is my spotlight for my next week. My activities which start in a next week become yellow. And this activity is not become yellow because it's not a start. It will not start in the next week. I show you how the progress line is work. And attachment. We have two attachments. You can use this text attachment in order to add some text. Or you can use this attachment in order to add curtain. Curtain asks you from when you want to start. I used 13th of September to the end of October. This is my curtain. Oh, I think use it again. Add the curtain. The 1st of December 2020 to the end of December. That is the curtain. If you want to highlight something in your plan, you can use it. And what is the line number? Like Microsoft project, you can add a line number over here or remove it. It's very simple. And if you want to reorder your font, you can use it. My font change. Do not worry about your change because you can use default. Everything become default. If you want to keep the row height by software automatically, you can use it, or if you want to set up by yourself, you can use it over here. Okay. Hint help. Hint help you to P6 show you some hint. If you go to every place, P6 show you some hint about how these fields are work. And a status bar, you can find a status bar over here. If you don't use this check mark, software remove it. And zoom in and zoom out. You can use zoom out, but if you go to your Gantt chart and click on the mouse button and use the mouse to the zoom in or zoom out. Expand all, collapse all, and collapse to. Collapse all, work, and expand all, show you all of your activities. Also, you can find expand and collapse over here, or collapse to the level 1, 2, or 3. I collapse to the level 2, or I collapse to the level 3. And toolbars, all of default toolbars you can find in your software. If you want to remove, for instance, project toolbar, if I remove this, you cannot find the project toolbars. But if I want to watch my project toolbars, you can watch it over here. This is the default configuration of P6. If you want to customize something for yourself, you can use a new or use the command, which command you want, or use this option in order to find your customization. And if you want to lock all toolbars, you can use this. If I don't use it, I can't reorderize my toolbars in a 2-line or in a 1-line. But if I use this lock, all of my toolbars locked. And if you want to divide your horizontal or vertical group, and present yourself something else. For instance, I want to show project over here or activity over here. Or want to come back to the default, you can use merge, alt tab, and group. And if you change your software too much and want to reset all your toolbars, you can use this icon. Okay. Our first session is finished. Now, if you have any question about our first session, please raise your hand. I'm available for further clarification. Hello to everyone. I'm available for further clarification. Okay. If no one have a question, this session ended. I hope to see you soon in our next session tomorrow night at 8 in our time. Thank you for your attendance. Hope to see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Bye.